Gemini Man is an action movie directed by Ang Lee and stars two Will Smiths. Two Wills. Henry Brogan is the government's best special forces assassin, but after decades of whacking people, he's had enough and he wants to retire. But now that he's considered a loose end, his former boss sends a younger version of himself to kill him. So this movie was shot in a high frame rate, and the story was partly written by Game of Thrones writer David Benioff. I feel that should be on the poster as a warning. But before I talk about the script, let's get technical first. The high frame rate, which is another way of saying it looks awful, is an odd choice. Shooting a film like this is something that director Ang Lee feels very strongly about. He really thinks that this is the way movies should be shot from now on, which is insane, because unless you're one of those people who doesn't mind watching movies at home with motion smoothing on, this film is gonna look weird and awkward. It's the so-called soap opera effect. It looks too real, like it's shot on video. I have to say, for 3D, it works pretty well because you're getting 60 frames per second for each eye, and the picture doesn't get darker like with any other 3D movie. I can see this working for documentaries like Free Solo or The Art of Flight, but for an action movie, it simply doesn't work. And that becomes even more apparent when you see digital Will Smith appear on screen. In some shots, he looks pretty damn good, almost like a real human being. But there are a bunch of times where the effects don't hold up and it just looks jarring and creepy. I think we're not far from having super realistic digital characters in movies, but we're not quite there yet. All of the technical stuff is very, very impressive, but the story is kinda on par with something like Replicas. It's very surface level. It's very clear that this script has been around for about 20 years or so, because it's full of movie cliches and predictable plot points. Everything is all laid out in front of you from the beginning. Even the villain in this story is so incredibly 90s. There's nothing interesting about him, and the movie doesn't even try to surprise you. The dialogue is filled with a lot of nonsense, and all of the secondary characters are very two-dimensional. One example is Benedict Wong's character, whose only reason to be in the movie is to serve as a mode of transportation and shitty comic relief. And had this movie been a lot funnier or just more fun, I probably would have liked it more. Will Smith is the only redeeming part of the film, but he doesn't really get the chance to turn on the Will Smith charm. And I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead, but she needs to pick better parts. It's hard to believe that this is the same person that starred in Fargo season 3. The premise of the film is very interesting, but the premise alone doesn't make an interesting film. Just like Will Smith, I've said it before, sometimes good actors make bad movies. And having him twice in the film doesn't make it twice as good. In the hands of a different filmmaker, this could have been pretty damn cool, but Gemini Man feels very generic and mediocre, so it gets 3 out of 6. So Mr. Lee, movies about clowns are very popular right now.
Yes, clowns.
No, clowns. Movies about clowns.